In exactly 58 seconds, a hidden database would expose the most sophisticated political filtering system ever deployed inside a federal law enforcement agency, not through conjecture, partisan accusation, or whistleblower rumor, but through mathematics so precise that denial became structurally impossible. Senator Ron Wyden did not expect the source code to be this explicit, this unapologetic, this careless in its confidence that no outsider would ever read it. FBI Director Patel did not expect anyone beyond a sealed circle of engineers, contractors, and loyal deputies to ever touch the server logs that quietly recorded every query, every access, every export of politically sensitive personnel data. The agents who had been terminated, reassigned, demoted, or professionally erased never imagined that the numerical loyalty scores that shadowed their careers would one day be entered into the congressional record. C-SPAN cameras captured every micro-expression as algorithmic evidence replaced political suspicion with mathematical certainty, transforming what might once have been dismissed as partisan grievance into a documented institutional failure so severe that it would occupy oversight committees, inspector general investigations, federal courts, and criminal prosecutors for months. The question that dominated the moment was devastating in its simplicity and terrifying in its implications. How did an Oregon senator with a background in technology policy uncover a system that had silently evaluated nearly every FBI employee's political reliability and then quietly determined their career trajectory based, not on merit, experience, or performance, but on ideological alignment, media consumption habits, and perceived loyalty to power? The answer did not begin with a dramatic confession or a leaked memo. It began with code 14,847 personnel files ingested and scored, 2,340 career actions triggered automatically, or semi-automatically, 847 terminations, executed under an administrative rationale that now read like fiction, one algorithm assigning numerical values to political loyalty. But the algorithm was only the interface, the visible layer presented to management dashboards, the black box beneath it, the predictive modules, the weighting matrices, the access controls, was far worse. October 8, 2020, 5:10:22 a.m., room 216 of the Hart Senate Office Building. Patel sat at the witness table with a posture that broadcast familiarity with confrontation, projecting a confidence cultivated through years of public combat television appearances and bureaucratic infighting. At 45, he radiated combative certainty, his FBI badge catching the overhead lights as though daring anyone in the chamber to challenge systems he believed were too technical, too complex, and too insulated from democratic oversight for Congress to meaningfully interrogate. Across from him sat Senator Ron Wyden, the 74-year-old Oregon Democrat, whose decades of work on surveillance reform, encryption policy, intelligence oversight, and technology accountability had made him Congress's most technically literate interrogator. Wyden did not posture, he did not moralize, he prepared. Before him lay 3 folders arranged with deliberate precision, one documenting systems architecture diagrams and internal design briefs, one containing database schemas, access logs, authentication tables, and server-level audit trails, and a third holding the scoring criteria and weighting logic that would, before the day ended, end Patel's career. Committee Chairman Mark Warner called the hearing to order with procedural calm, stating that the session would examine FBI personnel evaluation systems implemented under Director Patel's leadership. Patel leaned toward his microphone and welcomed the opportunity to discuss what he repeatedly described as modernized, data-driven, merit-based evaluation protocols, language selected to invoke neutrality, efficiency, and inevitability. Wyden opened the first folder and asked about a system internally designated Percival 7, deployed 14 months earlier. Patel described it as a standard personnel analytics platform designed to aggregate performance metrics, identify leadership potential, and support human resources decision-making across a sprawling federal workforce. Wyden did not argue. He produced printed pages of source code provided by a whistleblower who had helped architect the system, and read aloud a scoring function defining a variable labeled political Phi alignment, Phi coefficient, nested within a higher-order function named loyalty Phi core. The technical specificity unsettled Patel. He had anticipated policy questions and generalities, not a line-by-line code review. Wyden then displayed the database schema. Percival 7 ingested FBI email archives, bureau, device browsing histories, internal chat metadata, personal social media activity accessed through credential, linked scraping, voter registration databases obtained through commercial aggregators, political donation records, and granular media consumption profiles tracked through internal network traffic analysis. The scope of surveillance was staggering. This was not evaluation. It was political monitoring embedded directly into personnel infrastructure. Patel insisted that no single variable determined outcomes, and that all factors were considered in aggregate. Wyden responded with outcomes. A scatterplot appeared on the screen. 847 FBI employees terminated during Patel's tenure, a correlation coefficient of 0.94 between loyalty scores and termination decisions. No statistically significant correlation between terminations and traditional performance metrics, such as clearance rates, supervisory evaluations, or commendations. The numbers were merciless. Wyden cited individual cases with methodical precision, agents with decades of exemplary service, multiple commendations, and high case closure rates terminated for low loyalty scores, while underperforming agents with disciplinary histories, but high political scores were promoted into leadership roles. The pattern did not invite debate. It demanded acknowledgement. Then Wyden revealed a deeper layer of the system, a predictive module labeled ThreatPred. Patel's posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. ThreatPred was designed not to evaluate past behavior, but to predict future dissent. Wyden read from internal documentation listing risk indicators, reading articles about FBI controversies, searching for whistleblower protections, communicating with journalists, contacting congressional oversight offices, or researching employment attorneys. 312 employees were flagged as potential future risks. 287 were subsequently terminated, reassigned to geographically isolating posts, or placed on indefinite administrative leave. Patel framed it as security screening. Wyden countered with timelines showing employees punished within days of accessing oversight resources. This was not protecting the Bureau. It was preemptively silencing it. Wyden then exposed the contractor trail. Percival 7 had not been built by internal FBI engineers, but by Sentinel Analytics Group under a sole source contract worth millions. Sentinel had been incorporated shortly before Patel's appointment, and staffed by former members of his congressional team. Payment records showed over $5 million paid to a company with 3 employees. Worse, server logs revealed repeated external access to loyalty scores from IP addresses traced to the Republican National Committee, opposition research firms, and partisan media organizations. Patel denied knowledge until Wyden produced internal emails authorizing that access. Then the chamber doors opened. Dr. Catherine Wells, Sentinel's lead system architect, took the witness seat. She testified with technical clarity that the scoring criteria were provided directly by Patel's office, that she raised objections in writing, and that when she contacted congressional oversight, Percival 7 flagged her communications within 24 hours. Sentinel was terminated days later, but she had already preserved the source code, documentation, and access logs. The system had detected and retaliated against its own creator. Wyden closed without raising his voice, stating plainly that Patel had built a political surveillance system inside the FBI, punished ideology, shared confidential personnel data with partisan actors, and designed an algorithm to eliminate whistleblowers before they could speak. The evidence, he said, was algorithmic and required no interpretation. Patel offered a hollow denial, invoking modernization and efficiency. Within 6 hours, Percival 7 was suspended. Within 12, the Department of Justice opened a criminal investigation. Within 24, Kash Patel resigned. The black box had been opened, and it had documented its own abuse.